Welcome back to Dirty Pretty, the space where we own our feelings, honor our experience, share unfiltered truths, and talk shit, all through a lens of love. This past week, past Wednesday, I had my very first The Braid Framework corporate training retreat event. And I say it that way because it's different when you're showing up and you're speaking to a conference room and you are having, a timed 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour speech where you come on the stage and then you leave and then you're done. This is different having a training or a retreat because in this forum, it's a much more intimate setting. At least it is for me and how I run my intimate training retreats. And in those settings, it is intimate because I am on the spot coaching at any given time. So that means that in the 2 hour time period that I had for this training retreat with this company, which was BraveWorks, and I think I shared with you a little bit about how that came to be, but I'll tell you in a second. And in that forum, it's different, right? Because I'm not speaking at people and teaching, right? There is teaching going on, but it is interactive. There's conversation. Anytime in the middle of what I am sharing or what is being shared, there can be interruption. And then there is a natural conversation and cadence that occurs. It doesn't occur when you're in a presentation type setting. The BraveWorks community is a very special and important organization. I challenge and invite everyone that is listening or viewing this to go and check them out. They are a organization that supports people's rehabilitation. Particularly, there were all females that identified as women in the room on the particular date of my training, and they let everybody know as a part of their mission that everybody is redeemable. Everybody has the opportunity to pivot, try something new, or start again. And we all have unsavory anecdotes in our history and that make up who we are. Some of us don't have the opportunity to hide them given the nature of our experience. And so we need support. And thank goodness for places like the BraveWorks organization. So long story short is my husband has a company and that company sells apparel. And one of the items that they were selling was a t-shirt. And the t-shirt was so beautiful. It had a phoenix on it. And it's just very indicative of what I align with as a person. And so I was asked by my husband's company, to model their t-shirt. Well, before I say yes to anything, I want to make sure that what I'm representing and putting on my person is something that I feel accurately represents me, since it's on me, and also aligns with what I stand for. And so the minute that I found out what this organization was about, I was like, yes, let me do this t-shirt. And then as I was modeling this t-shirt, I was really feeling an urge to align myself in some way, shape, or form with this organization. Long story short, I decided I was going to contact them and ask them if I could offer my coaching services, if they thought that maybe what I offer would be prudent and a fit to their community. We met in March, right after I came back from the Energetics of Business conference, where I talked about the Braid framework, which I didn't know was the Braid framework at the time, for the first time anywhere. And so we met after the conference and we had a beautiful meeting, and I was told that I would hear right back from them. Well, I didn't hear back from them. That was March. Until May. And something very interesting happened to me during that time period that also happened to me in my relationship with my husband, Scott. We dated briefly for like 3 months. That didn't work out. I can tell that story later. And we broke up. And when we broke up, something very interesting happened to me. Typically, when there is a dissolution of a relationship of any kind or any length, I really feel it. I'm a very sentient individual and I love all people. I would love to be able to say to you that, that is an over exaggeration. It is not. And I say I would love to be able to say that to you because I really get my fucking feelings hurt a lot because I'm just such a lover. And I believe all of us are lovers. And that is actually the sentiment that I left with the BraveWorks community, is that we are only so upset and only so hurt and only so frustrated and only so enraged in direct proportion to the amount that we care. So if you're fucked off, it's because you care. And you care a fucking lot. And so when I learned this for myself, that's what the basis of the Braid framework was about. Being able to understand that there are going to be times for all of us, but particularly for those of us that align with being a lover, that really understand, whoa, either I feel it or it does nothing for me. That we have the propensity to be taken over by our emotions. So, like I said, when I met my husband, we dated for a period of time and then we broke up. And then we never talked again. And I was fine with it. There was no sense of residual feeling. I didn't miss him. I wasn't sad about it. I was just like, and that's done. That's very uncharacteristic for me. I typically have a grief associated with any relational transitions, good or quote unquote bad or unsavory. And even in that moment with my husband, I thought it was so weird. I was like, why don't I fucking care? I just do not care about this person at all. Oh, well, guess I'm evolving. Same, very similar circumstance happened here with the BraveWorks circumstance or the BraveWorks conversation. I went and we had the conversation. They said they were excited and then nothing, just crickets. And I thought, okay, this is just a matter of what was in the room felt aligned. And then after it wasn't, or maybe it really wasn't aligned all along. I don't know. And so I was kind of fine with it. I wasn't bummed out. I didn't really feel anything about it. And that was a very interesting thing for me too. And so when the BraveWorks community did reach back out in May and said, hey, we had a lot going on. We'd still love to engage you. Are you still interested? It was kind of the same feeling I had when my husband reached out to me on MySpace as I was getting ready to delete it because I was going to start teaching at my college alma mater. And I didn't want to have a MySpace at the time. I was like, I don't need this. I don't want my students coming and looking at this. So when I went to delete it, there was a message from him asking me to go on a date with him. And we can get into that whole story about how that relationship came to be because usually when I'm done with something, I'm done. I'm done. There's no need for us to linger on. And that's true for me. I don't leave residual. If something comes back around, it's because it's supposed to. And when I make up my mind about something, I'm pretty steadfast in that. I always allow myself to be flexible and always allow myself to change. But if I'm changing and I'm being flexible, there better be very, very good reason as to why I'm doing it. So, long story short, with the Brave Work situation, I had this resonance recollection of, this is similar to what happened with Scott. And that turned out to be successful. Been married to this person for a very long time. And we've been together for a very long time. But there was this gap that I didn't have a worry about. And so then that same awareness came in here with this Brave Works. And so when they confirmed that they wanted me to come, I was super excited. And there was a sense of calmness that I had about it that was unfamiliar to me. So all the way up to creating the training and the material that I was going to be presenting at the BraveWorks organization, I was just really chill. And throughout that entire time period, I was like, what's going on here? Because the last few years have been so freaking intense for me that, when you experience this shift, when you experience a shift that is drastically different, maybe even polar opposite to what you've been experiencing, there's a bit of trepidation. There can be a bit of pause. It's like, what is that? Why does this feel so fine? Why doesn't anything feel wrong or amiss, right? And I share this with my clients and my community as much as I possibly can. When you are someone who has high functioning anxiety, meaning you've been highly functional in super stressful situations notoriously in your life, or if you've had a string of long stressful conflicts in your life that you have still been able to maintain and manage yourself through, you might be a high functioning anxiety person as well. And so when you are a high functioning anxiety person, the minute that you notice your anxiety starts to change and shift as your nervous system starts to regulate itself, the lack of anxiety can make you anxious. Why? As I've shared with you many a time, our brain's primary function is to keep us safe. So when we know that we are aligned to a relationship with ourselves in life that says life is pretty unsafe, I have to operate at high functioning anxiety all the time, when that narrative in us changes and we're not aware of it, and we evolve to being able to feel anxiety and then regulate in it and allowing ourselves to say, sure, this feels a little bit anxious or uncomfortable, but I'm okay. And that's my goal. My goal is to feel as inside of myself and inside of this anxiety circumstance as possible. So, how can I regulate myself while admitting everything that's true at the same time? And so, as the event led up, I started to noticing myself maybe 1 or 2 days before getting increasingly anxious. And this entire time, as I explained to you, it's been very like, that's fine. Whatever happens, happens. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. Just very chill, which is what my baseline is. and I've learned through the course of my life is not actually a high functioning anxiety. I'm a steady chill most of the time, but if you want me to catch you outside, then I will, and that boundary is also there. I've learned how to delineate between the opportunity to be boundaried and protect myself and keep myself safe and regulated between being hyperactive, hyper stressful, hyper high functioning, and deciding that that's my state of normal. I've learned how to delineate between what I had to do to stay functional and who I actually am. And so over the past 3 years, like that's what I've been doing, but really like over the past 10 years, but consciously for the past 3 to 5. So as the event built up, like I said, I became more and more anxious. And then I had to be with that. I had to let my work from the Braid framework work me. I had to become present to what I was feeling, anxious. I had to see if that anxiety was in alignment with my values. Am I clear? Am I visible? Am I allowing my inconsistency? Am I allowing my individuality? Am I being mindful of my own energy? I had to check in with my values. I had to see that I was in alignment with all those things and I was still anxious. So I walk to my presence, I walk to my values, and I walk to my emotional regulation. And then I say, okay, well, what's the anxiety then? And that's where I was stuck. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And so on Monday, as I said, this started to ramp up, and the event is on Wednesday. So Monday night, I'm sitting with myself and I'm thinking about that relationship example that I have with Scott. And I'm thinking about, the way I reacted when they finally got back to me. And I'm seeing this like ease and ease and ease. And then this sudden spike in anxiety, and it hit. Presence came in, values came and aligned, and the regulation came whoop back to what my actual baseline is. Remembering, I have this pattern of high functioning anxiety as what I need in order to maintain regulation that I've been in relationship with, that's been the narrative that's not actually aligned for me. I am actually more regulated when I'm focused, I'm centered, I'm aligned, and I'm whole. I'm whole with what I'm feeling as well as who I am. And I'm not letting one thing override the other. And as I saw that, I began to see I'm anxious because I'm not anxious. I'm anxious because I'm aware I know what I'm doing here. I'm anxious because I trust myself, and I'm anxious because I feel like I bring value. And these are different ways of relating to myself without the anxiety. Normally, it takes the anxiety to get me there. It takes me that, say it with your chest. Peacock, get yourself together, girl. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps, that sort of conversation, in order to get me to be like, oh yeah, I can handle this, I can do this. But really, all that's doing is infusing more energy into the circumstance in a way that makes me feel like I have to persevere, not that I get to, not that it's aligned to, but that it is mandatory. And so then I maintain myself at that mandatory perseverance, just pushing through, pushing through, pushing through, and then getting through it like, that was good, right? Did I do what I needed to do? Nervous, trepidatious, unsure, not even really fully conscious in what I'm doing. And so when I picked up on that, I was then able to start having a conversation with it. Okay, well, what's the deal then? Well, without the anxiety, I feel anxious because I'm so used to functioning with anxiety. So then the opportunity becomes to, again, working my own Braid framework process, coming from presence, getting in line with my values, regulating my emotions, to understanding what perspective I'm rooting in that's coloring the way that I'm experiencing this, seeing that, oh, letting my emotions override me and push me into a patterned response, a reflexive response, was not allowing me to see that the perspective I was operating from was, you need to be anxious in order to be successful. You need to feel a little bit of fear. A little bit of fear is good for you. Keeps you on your toes. Ever hear that? I know that that may work for some people, but I realized that doesn't work for me. And when I realized that that perspective was, I need the anxiety to push me to be successful, I started to see that I wasn't romancing my reality. I wasn't allowing this to be real. I wasn't allowing it to be like, I'm anxious because, not because I need it in order to fuel me. I'm anxious because I care, and I care a lot. And I'm anxious because this is the first time in a long time I feel like I've been showing up to something fully present, consciously aware, and standing in my space, standing behind what I'm saying and what I'm doing, and allowing myself to not only be supported by my community and a company saying, yes, we think you could provide value and we're going to take a chance on you, but by also saying yes to myself, but by believing I don't need to be anxious in order to be successful. I don't need to manage myself at a high anxiety tempo, and I don't need to convince myself that the only way to maintain stability was by having a little healthy dose of fear. It doesn't work for me. Romancing my reality says it gets to be real that I'm anxious because I care and I care a lot, but it also gets to be real that I'm good at what the fuck I do and I can show up and have fun with it. And I can impart wisdom and insight and teaching and learning with people in a collaborative way that if it doesn't work for them, that's fine. It doesn't have to work for you. This is what works for me. Stick with what you know. Just sharing. So I wanted to share this with you today because I think that sometimes when we get into a relationship with the things that we want, we expect it's always going to be easy. And we expect that it's always going to go the same way. And because we expect that it's going to be easy when it's not and it's hard, sometimes we think that that's not meant for us. When there's a little bit of resistance or a lag within which our expectation was set up, like me waiting for the team, the BraveWorks team to get back to me, took a few months. And if I had allowed that mindset of, well, they must not want me and I must not be good enough to penetrate my mind, then I would have never gotten here. I would have never pushed along to creating the entirety of the Braid framework because at the time that I reached out to BraidWorks, I only had 3 of the guides done. Now I have 5 guides, 2 freebies, and it just keeps evolving. The more that I evolve and the more that I engage and the more that I show up. And that even if we have a sense of trepidation as we're taking something on, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It could just mean we care and we care a lot. Because as I was driving down to the presentation last Wednesday, I'll be honest, I got super anxious. And on the drive down, I again took my own work and I worked my own process. Presence, values, regulating perspective, romance, all the way down. Where are we, Shannon? We're anxious. Why are we anxious? Because we care and we care a lot. So we're aligned. Okay, and what's the anxiety pointing to us about that alignment? That we want to do well. Okay, we're getting regulated. Okay, and what's the perspective saying? The perspective is saying, this is not like anything we have done before. Do you know why? Because there is no other job supporting me. This is what I'm in. This is what's supporting me. This is what I'm showing up in. But also, I was actively living in what I had started this entrepreneurial adventure with and for. I was in the perspective of realizing I no longer wanted to sit at a cubicle. I no longer wanted to sit under a halogen light. I no longer wanted to answer emails that I didn't give a shit about. And I no longer wanted to be paid less than I was worth. And I no longer wanted to have a cap or a ceiling on my potential. And here I was, driving to a circumstance that gave me all of that. My perspective shift, and then I allowed myself to romance it. Shannon, this is everything that you have ever wanted. Are you going to show up and are you going to have a fucking good time? Or are you going to make yourself feel like you're not worthy of this? You're not useful. You're not reliable, and it requires you to be anxious in order to be happy. And that's the real relationship that I was seeing that was rooted in, is that any time that we feel like we are scared about getting what we want, it's because we care and we care a lot. But there is that anxiety, that trepidation of, am I worth it? And am I allowed to have it with ease? Am I allowed to have it like this if it goes against what I was taught and what I have experienced? And if your gut says yes, and you allow yourself to discern why it is meaningful to you, and you allow yourself to stand behind that and in who you are about doing it, then I can tell you from experience, it gets to be a lot easier. It gets to be a lot more fun. And that's not necessarily easy in the sense that it doesn't require work. Of course it does. It required effort and work for me to get my mind right about myself, get my body in alignment, get my energy on board, get me whole in my perspective. But I'm willing to go there. And I'm willing to be patient with myself. And I'm willing to do all of it because I want what I want in this life. And I'm not willing to accept anything else. So I wanted to share this with you today because when you have that realization and you have that conversation with yourself, then you get on board with becoming your very own best friend. And that was the overarching concept that the BraveWorks community asked me to present to their team, was the idea of becoming your very own best friend. Getting on your own side of the street, cheering for you, but also seeing yourself clearly. Where aren't you conditioning? Where aren't you practicing? Where aren't you showing up for yourself like you would a sport, like you would an athlete, like you would someone that's devoted and committed to something? Are you going to love it? Are you going to love it when it's hard? Are you only going to love it until it is hard and then give it up? Because there's a difference between assessing that something is not healthy for you anymore and thinking that you don't deserve it to be healthy for you. You don't deserve to be healthy and happy at the same time. And that is what happens when we get on our own team. We allow ourselves to be patient with what we're experiencing and to go at the own pace of what we face. And we allow ourselves to realize that, you know what, if that BraveWorks team did not reach out to me, if Scott never contacted me to go on another date and to kind of recalibrate our relationship and what it was prior to that, what is the alternative? Does that then mean I'm unlovable? Does that then mean my craft is, I'm not skilled at my craft? Does that mean that I don't have any value to offer? Does that mean that I'm worthless? Does that mean I am not worth the effort to pursue the life that I want? And that's what becoming your own best friend gives you, the perspective to see where you are fucking your own shit up. And just like a friend would, that gut check moment that reflects to you who you are and reminds you that it's up to you to stand in that to get what you want and what you need out of life. And sometimes that requires support. I needed my husband's support in coming back to our relationship to give me the opportunity to see that love isn't a fairy tale. It doesn't always just sweep you off your feet. Relationships require patience and work and effort and figuring things out and failing and being messy and doing it wrong and forgiveness and compassion and grace. And that's no different than business. And that's the reason why I created the Braid framework, is because relational dynamics are important everywhere, because parts work is important everywhere. We are such complex beings. Business is complex as well. And it requires us relating to that complexity in order to be able to find our alignment and being able to regulate, to learn that, wait a minute, I don't have to operate here in order to feel like I can ever get here. I can operate here. And anytime I go here to that high anxiety place, I can allow that to be real while also allowing myself to regulate at the same time. Thank you so much for being here as always. If any piece or part of this resonated with you, please let me know. If you like this conversation, please leave a review or share it with someone that you feel might benefit from it. Otherwise, be good to yourself for fuck's sake. Live honestly in the dirty pretty of your life and choose to do the next right thing for you. Until next time.